Please give a huge round of applause for sir.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, sir. Let me begin by expressing my deep gratitude to RDIS for giving me this opportunity. I am delighted to be here with. I think this is fine. You want me to? Okay. This morning I am delighted to be here with all of you to share my own understanding of Indian foreign policy. And as your director remarked, the negative or the challenges which is he felt or experienced in Indian foreign policy. So what I will do in next couple of minutes is to give you an overview that how Indian foreign policy emerged over, and then in recent years he mentioned 2 months. So I'll give you an overview that how there are different transitions in Indian foreign policy and how will it impact in the long term. There are new elements which are coming in, and India is adjusting itself, refashioning its foreign policy to the changing needs and global requirements. You all agree that India is a huge, boisterous nation bursting with optimism for its future and reaping some early fruits of its profitable engagement with globalization while struggling to reduce the severe poverty afflicting hundreds of millions of its citizens. Today, we witness an India reaching out. Its private sector is doing so aggressively, carving out markets for itself globally, investing widely and taking over industrial icons and services abroad. Nonetheless, corporate India faces frustrations within its home country, particularly with regard to business conditions and investment opportunities. And I think some of that reflects what he made the remarks at the beginning. But India's relations with the world have seen a fundamental transformation over the last decade and a half. Most Indians agree. Let me ask a question first. Anyone has studied Indian foreign policy in their course among these students? How many of you Jawaharlal Nehru? No? Only few? Okay, Jawaharlal Nehru was our first Prime Minister, and he is being considered the architect of Indian foreign policy. Most Indians agree that its first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru had defined a unique foreign policy for India at the very dawn of its independence. Despite many critiques of his worldview, a broad national consensus has emerged around Nehru's ideas on independent foreign policy, non-alignment, and third worldism. But things are changing constantly. So since 1990s in particular, when the Cold War ended and collapse of USSR, the challenges for Indian leaders has been to reinterpret Nehru's ideas to suit the new political context had confronted it. The new Indian leaders had to continually improvise and refashion India's foreign policy to suit the new requirements. If I may say so, the new foreign policy of India is a work in progress. So, what are the structural changes over a period of time has taken in Indian foreign policy? If I see in a broader sense, there are 5 major orientations which have taken place in Indian foreign policy. The first is that consensus of building a socialist society to building a modern capitalist one. Anyone has studied Constitution of India in their course? Okay. Socialist word was incorporated in the Constitution. When was that? Anyone? No. In 1976, Indian government incorporated the word socialist in the very preamble of Indian Constitution. It said Socialist Republic. The entire focus was, since Nehru, the entire focus was to make India a socialist country, and the economy was completely cold. The economy was described as Hindu rate of growth. 3%, 3.5% growth rate was there. So after 1990s, that concept, the socialist republic, has changed to a capitalist one. Now India's economy is more open, more liberalized, and you remember LPG policy which came out to reform the economic reforms. So that is the first transition in Indian foreign policy, where a consensus of building from socialist to a capitalist society. The second change is emphasis from politics to economics. In recent years, all of you might have noticed that economic issues or economic imperatives are becoming more and more important in foreign policy decision making process. From a foreign policy perspective, economic prosperity, which is the tide that lifts all boats, is now seen as the key to India's attainment of great power status, and it is the driving argument behind India's current worldview. Indeed, trade and bilateral economic cooperation have become the cornerstones of India's relations with the world. No longer India discriminates with either it's America or Israel or Iran or Europe or China. India wants to do trade with each and every nation. That is economic imperative. And India is promoting economic development in other continents as well, securing oil fields in Central Asia or exploring natural resources in Africa, and so on and so forth. Similarly, India is now getting more remittances from its 3.5 million workers from the Gulf region. It's just because of economic reason. There is no now slogan of democracy or human rights or such other things. The most important thing has become economic aspects, which helps in improvement of the conditions and life of the whole citizens of this country. So that's the key driver of foreign policy, and that's the shift which is dominated by politics earlier, a lot of slogans and leader of third world and so on and so forth. So from politics to economics is the second transition in Indian foreign policy. The third one is that earlier India was in Nehru's time and then onwards, because it came out of a long colonial history. So that shaped that time of foreign policy decision or implementation, and then it became leader of third world countries. All those countries who were either fighting for their independence or just became independence, they following India's, and they brought that policy of non-alignment. So that had changed. Now from a leader of third world, India is promoting its own self-interest. India saw a transition in China. Its leader Deng Xiaoping made policy to improve the conditions of Chinese people, to improve the economic situation, and that forced India also to think to improve its own situation. So from becoming leader of a third world countries, India became focusing more on self-interest, how to improve the domestic situation, how to improve the economic condition, and so on. Fourth transition was rejecting anti-Western thinking. In India, from the very beginning, there was a thinking in India that, including the Communist Party of India, were strong, and rightist as well, that West is imperialist colonial powers, and that's why we should have limited relation with the West. That had changed completely. I remember when it was in early 90s, Richard Celesti was US ambassador to India. When India started focusing, reorienting its course towards West and looking West for improving its relationship. At that time, it was Cold War was about to end. So he made a remark when India-US relations started improving that India-US relationship is going from paranoia to partnership. That kind of observation started coming from a foreign diplomat, from the US diplomat. It gives a signal that since then India's approach was changing towards West, and in recent years, particularly in last decade, it's more visible that anti-West thinking has diminished, and to a greater extent, it's more pragmatic way of thinking. India's approach is omnidirectional, thinking in all directions. And finally, the fifth transition is from idealism to pragmatism. What is pragmatic and idealistic? Idealistic is that this should happen. It's anti-colonial, so we should not cooperate with US. But today's reality demands that your national interest is most important thing, and you should choose a course which is more important for your own interest to protect your, as your director remarked, that at some instances it is witnessed that the foreign policy makers or the people who decides the course of foreign policy, they compromised with national interest. That's too strong a statement, and I have some differences over that, but he is right that the common people felt like India compromised with its own national interest. It's objective thing which can be discussed and debated, but India became more pragmatic towards its economy, towards its domestic challenges which are immense, to address them. And foreign policy is basically, if one can define in a line, it is basically expansion of your domestic agenda. Why India is making relationship with the United States or China or Japan or any part of the world? Why? Or for that matter Pakistan, which is too hot, and China debated on TV channels and in recent months. It's just because to protect, for example, Pakistan. If you take the name of Pakistan, everybody will say terrorism is the most important issue for us. Cross-border infiltration is issue which is creating a lot of trouble in India. So to address that, to protect our citizens here at home, we need to talk to Pakistani counterpart and to make an understanding that that kind of problems stops. So basically, what are or to improve the growth rate, to sustain your economic development, you need to interact with other parts of the world. It's a globalized world where we are living in a global village and interact with each other. Being affected, one incident happens in one part of world and that affects so many people across the globe. So that's very significant, and that's why India's approach towards foreign policy is shifting towards more pragmatic approach than idealistic. At several points, for example, IPSA, which is India, Brazil, South Africa, and BRICS countries, where they are part of a same league, but on certain international important issues where India has differences, clearly India has voiced against China or other issues which are important for India's national interest. So it's not idealistic that we are part of a group, so I can't oppose. I can, if my national interest is being hampered, I have all rights to oppose or raise my voice against that, and that India did. So it shows that India's approach is shifting and to a greater extent has shifted towards more pragmatic approach. Then what is the impact of all these transitions which I mentioned? You will witness there is a lot of dynamics in foreign policy decision making, and for example, India's nuclear diplomacy. Many of you would be aware that India tested in 1998 second time at Pokhran. The slogan was Buddha laughing again. First time it was in 74 and second time the code word was that Buddha laughing again. Since then, Indian diplomats, scholars, business chambers, think tanks all work together and sync with each other, talking about India's nuclear requirement, why India tested, and why it is important for India to get that nuclear technology. They visited everywhere across the globe with, and discussed, debated their ideas, and finally India and United States in depth discussed these ideas at the top level, at track 2 level, at academic level, and India US signed nuclear deal. There were domestic debates as well in India that this is not good, India is losing its autonomy in foreign policy, compromising its foreign policy, and so on and so forth. But finally national interest was important, and it was a good step for India to being part of that closed nuclear club. So that is the one dynamics which changed after the transition in foreign policy. Earlier it was, India was basically relying on power of argument. Some of you might have heard The Argumentative Indian, book by Amartya Sen. So basically Indians are known as argumentative. They debate a lot, discuss a lot. But will that help you in achieving so many things? India changed that attitude. So from power of argument, it shifted towards argument of power. India was talking more in tune with power. It doesn't mean that India will encroach in the territory of other countries, but certainly that nuclear capability helped India to improve its position, its recognition across the globe, and became part of that high table where India can sit with all other major powers. So that is one dynamics. Another, India's relationship with all great powers improved dramatically. Either it's United States, Russia was old friend, and that remained continuing relationship is trusted and good friend. With European Union, with Japan, China, Australia, all big players which are influential and are important for India. India improved its relationship in all directions with all major powers, all great powers. Then third dynamism which came into India's foreign policy was more India's approach towards neighborhood. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, when he was Prime Minister, he said in his speech, one of his speech, that you can choose your friends, not neighbors. And that's why you need to learn to stay and work together with your neighbors. So NDA onwards, consistently all Indian governments are changing their approach towards neighbor, and the first and foremost important thing was that Indian government is dealing simultaneously with two big problems. When I say problems, first is Pakistan, which is a big challenge for India consistently, and some foreign scholars, some Indians as well, say that China keep India engaged within the subcontinent, so India don't get enough time to deal with other important international issues. And another challenge was China. So simultaneously India started engaging, both the countries addressing several issues, started trading with each other, and now China is our largest trading partner. With Pakistan also several problems at border, particularly I am referring to last 2 months. You see how politicians refrained from any military retaliation or any kind of war sort of situation. Why is that? Is that compromise with the national interest? Several of you would be thinking that the debates going on television channel are very right, they are very provocative, we should attack on Pakistan, finish that. I was participating in a young strategist forum in Japan last year, and the question came up about Pakistan. And at that time, I mean, it was a war game scenario and we were busy in several days. It was quite intense exercise. And somebody from United States State Department asked me a question, and what about Pakistan? I said, we can finish Pakistan like this. But then I realized, no, that's not the mature answer. And then I revised my answer, and then, because there were a lot of back and forth questions. So it's because Indian business community, academics, politicians, and people from both the sides, they are not willing to go for another war. There are certain sections in Pakistan and in India as well who are more interested in war, and well, India's reaction to Pakistan works, of course, but in Pakistan there are certain sections in military and in other establishments who are not willing to improve relationship. But otherwise, the larger section wants to improve relationship. That's why India's approach is like that. But other than that, not only India recognized the importance of region and neighborhood, but also took several initiatives. For example, I.K. Gujral. Have you heard name of I.K. Gujral? Okay. So I.K. Gujral, when he was our Prime Minister, he was visiting London in Chatham House. He gave a lecture where he talked about neighborhood, and he mentioned that India is willing to walk more than half distance. India doesn't want any reciprocity. It doesn't expect any reciprocity. That was known as, at that time, that it's Gujral doctrine. And since then, India's approach is improving in a positive way towards all neighboring countries, either it's Bhutan, Nepal or Sri Lanka, including Pakistan. Despite several ups and downs in relationship, India is quite consistent and responding in a mature way to improve the relationship, coming again and again on table to discuss the issues and to resolve the conflicts. Similarly, another change which happened in neighborhood was that earlier India was thinking that South Asia is India's sphere of influence. No other country or no other power has right to come and interfere in this particular sector. But that has also changed. From unilateralism, India is taking issues going towards multilateralism. The best example is case of Nepal. Not only India allowed to work other countries with Nepal in the peace process, but India is working together with several countries. For example, with Norway, Indians are working to build infrastructure in Nepal, and so on, so that they have to adjust their policy with reality, with the challenges of globalization. If we go beyond this South Asia, this subcontinent, India changed its policy towards extended neighborhood. Popularly, it's known as Lookist policy. There are two different phases, Lookist policy first and then second. Second because there were other elements added to that. So India started paying more attention towards ASEAN countries, towards it started with political exchange, focusing on more political issues, and then economic issues, economic aspect, because got inspiration from all tiger countries because of their fast growing economies, and then a large scale of defense and security cooperation as well. and it's very strong element of India's current foreign policy, lookist policy. There is a permanent 1.5 dialogue process between ASEAN and India. It's called Delhi Dialogue. 5 dialogue already has been done. Business to business interaction has increased, and interaction between academics, exchange between students, a lot of exchange happens. And before coming here, I was discussing with your director. He mentioned that how he is coordinating with different departments and schools in foreign countries, a student exchange program, and that he is planning to do for you as well. That will provide you chance to interact with counterpart, your other students, how they are thinking about different processes, how they are different from your way of learning, and what is you which you can share with them. So he is working on that, and probably he will be partnering with different institutions in various parts of the world, and you would be do an exchange program where you will visit that institution and those students will come here. This is also part of foreign policy. He will become, or you will become, brand ambassador of India. You will go there and represent India, that what is the idea of India, how Indians are thinking, why India is, despite all its challenges, is so popular and so important for all other parts of the world. So that's happening, and that's what transition is taking place in all domains of foreign policy. It's more engagement of business, more engagement of academic institutions, young scholars. There is young scholar exchange program or youth exchange program. Various scholarship and fellowship are available there, which you must explore and avail those scholarship and fellowship to visit and explore various opportunities across the globe. Also, in this phase of relationship, India's approach towards Islamic world changed. Earlier it was more cultural, that we are having cultural ties. Iran architecture is more, you can find in Kashmir or so on and so forth. Food habits, dressings, and all of that, or even carpets. Several people bring carpets from Iran and gift it to their dear ones, which is well known. So focus has shifted from that cultural and all sort of soft aspect to more towards reality, which is we need energy. For energy security, we need their oil, their gas. So it's important to engage them. Then we need FDI. They have money. So we are continuously revising our policies to attract them to invest in India. Not only they have money, we have also money. A lot of Indian entrepreneurs and private sectors are going abroad, investing there. Several companies have invested in Gulf and Middle East region to make their base there, and from there they are exporting to Africa, they are exporting to Europe and expanding their business. So India's approach towards Islamic world has also changed. It has shifted. Then, is this all what happening? Everything is positive? No, there are challenges as well. As your director talked about, India has a growing sense of itself as an important player on the world stage. But there is often a curious gap between its self-perception and the way the rest of the world views it. There is absolutely no doubt about the increasing importance of India. The world is looking to India on many dimensions: its economic prospects, cultural visibility, and its own potential political example. Being the largest democracy, despite so many internal challenges, it's still thriving, working well. That's an example for the world. That's a model which not UPA 2 but UPA 1, when Manmohan Singh discussed the idea of India, when he was talking about idea of India among global audiences, he talked about democracy, its pluralism, And he said that by its own example, India will prove that this democratic model of growth will be a case for everybody to follow. UPA 2, little bit problematic. So there is a sense that despite some serious challenges, the momentum of history is on India's side, but there is also tremendous apprehension in different parts of the world about India's state's ability to leverage this opportunity to its full advantage. What is the biggest challenge? The biggest source of frustration is the world over is the near paralytic fragmentation of authority in our politics. This era of coalition politics has made very difficult to exercise important foreign policy goals. It is difficult to understand, not only for Indians but particularly for outsiders, the degree to which every small interest can exercise veto over important issues without concern for any minimal degree of rationality. There is a couplet which can explain the current India situation, that nahi ikrar ka alam, nahi inkar ka pehlu. So India is in a situation of fix. They want to improve relationship with the United States, but they are afraid of term alliance. That is compromise with the autonomy of foreign policy, independent foreign policy. They want to sign agreement with Bangladesh. The favorable government is there. They did their part. India recognized that, acknowledged that, but not able to implement that because of Mamata Banerjee. India wants to improve further after signing FTA relationship with Sri Lanka, but another madam is there in Tamil Nadu. So those sort of